The story sounds like Hollywood wrote it. An American P-51 pilot gets shot down behind enemy lines in Czechoslovakia and spends days hiding in the forest. As night falls, he watches two German mechanics fuel up a Focke-Wulf 190, then walk away, leaving it unguarded. He sneaks through the fence, spends the entire night studying German instruments, then at dawn fires up the engine and blasts between two hangars. He flies 200 miles at treetop level back to his base in France, where soldiers think he's attacking. He belly lands the stolen Focke-Wulf 190 with rifles pointed at his cockpit until his CO recognizes him and asks where the hell he's been. It's been repeated in countless articles, videos, and even influenced Top Gun: Maverick. There's just one problem. Almost none of it actually happened. The real story involves bored occupation forces after the war ended, a joyride gone wrong, and a bar story that got completely out of hand. But here's what makes this important. Bruce Carr's actual combat record was genuinely extraordinary without any of the Hollywood embellishment. Bruce Carr started flying at 15 in 1939 and enlisted in the Army Air Forces in September 1942. His military instructor was the same guy who'd taught him to fly 3 years earlier. Because of his experience, he got accelerated training and was deployed to Europe by February 1944, assigned to the 363rd Fighter Group. On March 8, 1944, Carr scored what should have been his squadron's first kill, chasing a Bf-109 to within feet of the ground. Only one bullet hit, but the German pilot bailed out too low and died. His commanders refused to give him credit and reprimanded him for being over-aggressive. The criticism created a rift that escalated to the point where Carr was placed under arrest for insubordination, with court-martial proceedings being prepared. Captain Glenn Eagleston of the 354th Fighter Group saw potential others missed and arranged Carr's transfer in May 1944. The move saved his career. On September 12th, Carr's flight spotted over 30 FW-190s below them, and he dove straight into the enemy formation, shooting down 3 before escorting a damaged wingman home. He earned the Silver Star. By October 29th, Carr had 5 confirmed kills and ace status. By early 1945, he'd become one of the 354th's most aggressive pilots. But the story everyone knows about stealing a German fighter after being shot down has nothing to do with his actual combat record. In fact, it didn't happen the way it's been told at all. The legend says that in late 1944, Carr was shot down over Czechoslovakia, evaded capture for days, then stole a Focke-Wulf 190 from an active German airfield and flew it back to Allied lines. It's dramatic. It's been repeated thousands of times, and there's zero official documentation for any of it. There's no missing aircrew report for a lost P-51. MACRs were mandatory for any aircraft lost in combat. There's no evasion report, which every pilot who returned after being shot down had to file. The 354th Fighter Group's unit history mentions nothing about Carr returning in a captured German aircraft, which would have been the most remarkable incident in their entire war. When the British captured a Focke-Wulf 190 in 1942, it generated hundreds of pages of intelligence reports. An intact Focke-Wulf 190 delivered to Allied hands in late 1944 would have been equally valuable. No such documentation exists. At the 1998 Air Force Academy Association reunion in San Antonio, Colonel Carr admitted it was a bar story that got out of hand. So what actually happened? The truth is less cinematic, but makes perfect sense once you understand the context. By the time Carr got his Focke-Wulf 190, the war in Europe had ended. The 354th was on occupation duty at Ansbach, Germany, and pilots were bored out of their minds. Major Jim Dalglish already had his own Focke-Wulf 190 he'd collected from an abandoned Luftwaffe base. When Carr saw it, he wanted one too. Carr hitchhiked to a former Luftwaffe airfield near Linz, Austria, found a flyable Focke-Wulf 190, and took it. This wasn't a daring theft from an active enemy base. It was claiming a souvenir from abandoned facilities after the war ended. For safety, he arranged P-51 escorts to fly back with him. No treetop flying, no dodging gunners, just a formation flight back to Ansbach. The problem came when he tried to land. The Focke-Wulf 190's landing gear has a secondary hydraulic lever that Carr didn't know about. He flew around trying everything he could think of, but the gear wouldn't extend. Eventually, he had to belly land it, grinding metal across the runway. The famous footage of him with the damaged aircraft was shot at Ansbach after a joyride gone wrong, not in France after a dramatic escape. Shortly after, the USAAF banned pilots from taking German aircraft, not for security reasons, but because bored pilots were interfering with official intelligence collection efforts. But by then, the Barr story was already growing. Here's what Bruce Carr actually did that mattered. On April 2, 1945, he was leading 4 P-51s on reconnaissance near Schweinfurt, Germany, when they spotted more than 60 German fighters high above them. 60 enemy aircraft versus 4 Americans, with the enemy holding altitude advantage. Every doctrine said, avoid the engagement. Carr led his flight straight up into them anyway. In the dogfight that followed, he personally destroyed 5 enemy aircraft, 2 FW-190s and 3 Bf-109s, while damaging a 6th. His wingmen accounted for additional kills. Total, 15 German fighters destroyed by 4 P-51s. Carr's 5 kills in one mission made him the last ace in a day in the European theater. His Distinguished Service Cross citation read, completely disregarding his personal safety and the enemy's overwhelming numerical superiority and tactical advantage of altitude, he led his element in a direct attack on the hostile force. He was promoted to captain a week later and flew combat missions through the end of the war, finishing with 14 confirmed victories and 172 combat missions. After World War II, he flew F-80s with the Acro jets. During Korea, he flew 57 missions in F-86 Sabres. In Vietnam, at age 44, he flew 286 combat missions in F-100 Super Sabres, earning the Legion of Merit and 3 Distinguished Flying Crosses. Colonel Bruce Carr retired in 1973 after 31 years of service spanning 3 wars. He died in 1998 and is buried at Arlington National Cemetery. That's the real Bruce Carr, a pilot who earned his achievements through documented courage and skill across 3 decades of service. The Carr legend got new life in 2022 when Top Gun Maverick used elements of it. Stolen enemy aircraft, desperate flight to safety. Millions left theaters thinking they'd seen a dramatization of real events. YouTube videos about Carr's escape rack up hundreds of thousands of views, with comment sections full of people who don't know it's fiction. This matters because it buries Carr's genuine accomplishments. 5 kills in one day against 60 enemy aircraft represents extraordinary courage. The Distinguished Service Cross, 3 wars of service, 515 total combat missions. That's the real story. The fabricated escape overshadows actual heroism with Hollywood drama. At the 1998 reunion, when Carr himself admitted the story was a Barr story that got out of hand, he was trying to set the record straight. We should listen to him. Bruce Carr doesn't need the fictional escape to be remarkable. His actual combat record proves everything necessary about his courage and skill. The story you've probably heard makes for compelling drama, but it isn't true. And Bruce Carr's real achievements, documented, verified, genuinely extraordinary, deserve to be remembered accurately. Not as the man who stole a German fighter during a dramatic wartime escape, but as an ace who earned 14 victories through skill and courage, served his country for 3 decades across 3 wars, and represented the best qualities of American military aviation. That's the story worth remembering.